Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new session today with Codebase. The session run every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Since I'm back from Dreamforce, we have been discussing together vibe coding. We saw Claude Code in one session. We saw Agentforce Vibes using the same requirements to do the same action and create the task manager app using Agentforce Vibes. Then we decided to slow down and explain together the Visual Studio Code Agentforce Vibes extension and how to set it up and the difference between plan and act and different aspects of the tool. Today, we decided as well, we'll take it as well slow. We'll see some use cases where we can use Agentforce Vibes. They are not only the options that we can do with Agentforce Vibes, but there are some ideas I explored in the past when we discussed Agentforce for developers. So I want to bring the attention to them as well with Agentforce Vibes and how we can do them. And we are always welcome ideas and suggestions, and we are looking to have a session in early December, where we'll have the community, different members of the community come to the session and share their use cases for Agentforce Vibes. So if you have an interesting use case that you want to share with others and teach it to us how to do it, how to write the prompt for it, and how to achieve this task using Agentforce Vibes, please message me. I'm collecting information and interested speakers, and I'll be announcing the session soon. And if we have too many speakers who wants to share their ideas and what they want, what they do with Agentforce Vibes, we may split it into 2 sessions. So please message me if you have interesting use cases. So again, if anyone missed the previous sessions, today is not, we won't go deep into complex scenarios, but if you want to check YouTube channel Codebase. We have a playlist where we started explaining Agentforce Vibes, the setup, how to manage and work with the extension. And this is the session where we used the same requirement that Bill used Claude Code to build the task manager, and we used it for Agentforce Vibes. So let's start today's session. Last time, towards the end of the session, we saw a big slide with many options that we'd love to explore during Code with Sally sessions, or maybe record some videos for them offline. I cannot cover all of them in one session, so we'll try as much as possible to explore the yellow, the ones that I changed the background for them to be in yellow. And towards the end of the session last time, I got a request to see if we can import CSV files and load their data into account object or NES object we have in the org. So we'll demonstrate that towards the end as well. So let's start. We'll try to go as many tasks as possible, and we'll check the time. If we are close to all the scenarios and we can go a bit over time, I will do that. If we find that we did just half of them or less, or however we can achieve, we may split it in another session, or I do the videos offline for you. So let's start. Again, those are not the only options or the only tasks you can do with Agentforce Vibes. Those are just ideas and thoughts that I came up with that I can do with Agentforce for developers in the past. Some of them I couldn't, and now with Agentforce Vibes. And you notice that I marked those in yellow. We'll try to do them. And also the Visualforce page, I jumped towards this session, use case and tested, because I remember when I was explaining Agentforce for developer, I tried this one in the past and it didn't work. So I was happy that it worked. So I would love to show it to you as well. So let's get started. Anytime you have any questions or you want to ask any questions, please let me know. So the first use case that we want to check is asking coding questions. And if you remember, when we worked with Agentforce for developers, we said writing a prompt can be sometimes like time consuming if you want to explain what you want to do and what's the output. And at the time I had a question. Someone asked me like, can we put this somewhere so we can reuse it? At the time we created this code snippet and we said like, okay, I want to explain the difference between two concepts and I want to tell me how to use each, how give me examples, what are the best practices, how to write unit test class for it, and assume I'm a beginner and give me a summary. So now with Agentforce Vibes, what I try to do, instead of relying on code snippet, I went to the workflow. You remember the workflow was mainly for repeated tasks or multi-steps, and we tried last time to use it to create a class, test class, deploy it, run the Apex test class, and we said that was a simplified version for it. I said, let me try to create a workflow that instead of me typing every time, for example, I can say a static method here, and the second concept be non-static method. So instead of me typing every time this and going to Agentforce for Vibes and typing the text that I want, I will have it in a workflow and then I will run my workflow. So I have here, I created a workflow called Explain Concepts. And I said, I need to ask the user, what do they want to learn? And then I want to ask if they want to do a comparison between, if they specify more than one topic, they want to compare between the two or just one. And then I specified what I need in the output. Like I want to explain if it's two concept or one, tell me the best practices, unit test method, I want a summary and everything. And to be honest, yesterday when I was testing this, it worked fine. But then it came to my mind as well. What if I want to do more? Like I want to, because you can take this prompt and put it in ChatGPT and put it in an external LLM. So why would I come here and do it here? The benefit of doing it within Agentforce Vibes that you can ask Agentforce Vibes to give you examples from your current project and your current code structure you have. So let's see it together. I can say here to run a workflow, I can do backslash and I can say explain concepts. And it will ask me what do you want to me to explain. So let's see together. Here it will tell me, okay, it's thinking and it should tell me, okay, it giving me options. Sometimes it doesn't give me the option, just ask me to type like which Apex concept you want me to explain to you, and I propose some scenarios. And I can say here, I want static methods and non-static methods. And I can say as well, show me examples from my existing code. And to be honest, this part of showing examples from existing code, if we want, we can have it as a question added to the workflow. So it asks me for it, or I can have it as an instruction in my workflow so I don't have to repeat it. But that's something I tried last night before sleeping, that it can do it, and I was happy with the output. So now I'm saying, okay, I want you to explain me two concepts and I want examples. So it's asking me like, do you want me to give you a comparison between the two, or I need to focus on one of them? So I will say, I want you to compare static and non-static. Here, what it will do, because I'm asking it to give me examples from my existing code, it's checking the classes that I have and collecting the information so it can give me the result based on what it can find in my classes. And part of the instruction I gave in the workflow, and I can share this workflow if you guys are interested in GitHub, I specified that I want my output in MD file, markdown file, and I want you to give me all the details in the structure I wanted as an output in this MD file. So that's a good benefit. You couldn't get this details if you just do it in ChatGPT. or an external LLM, because it won't have access to your code base. So it can explain the concept, can generate output for you like this, but it won't be able to give you examples from your existing code or your project. And I feel that's very helpful because sometimes you want to learn about a concept, but you want examples, and sometimes the example will be more useful and meaningful for you if they are coming from your existing project. So here it's giving me the MD file. And here we have like that's something coming with Agentforce Vibes 3.3, like the focus chain here that tells me what were the steps that it will go through. And one by one, when it gets done, it gets removed or marked as done. So let's open this in the view. And part of my workflow, I put instruction to put me the output in a folder called learning materials. So it created the folder for me and added the file there. So here it started explaining the static and non-static methods. And here it's just explanation, when to use each. And here, this is the part that I love, that we can add the specifically in the workflow. Now I just put it in the prompt. Examples from my code base. So I have a calculator class that we created before. It has static methods. So it started giving me snapshots from the code and explaining how that is working. We had account helper, and we had other static methods and when to use it. Here, instance oriented. So it gave me examples from my code base and explanation and unit test patterns and everything. So it can be useful in terms if you want to see something or you're learning about the concept and you wanted to generate for you an output explaining to you the differences between the two and giving you examples. And again, my workflow and the instruction, the workflow can be enhanced for sure. So it was just to demonstrate the use case, and that you can take instead of having code snippet, can put your code snippet in a workflow and run it over and over again with the concepts that you want to explain in that scenario. And you can instruct it as well to give you example from your existing code. And you can review it. Again, it may do some mistakes here or there, but you can fix it as well, or tell the instruction or fix it, or ask the task here, you did something wrong, this doesn't make sense, or we need, for example, if it missed a non-static method example, you can say, okay, you missed this, but like, again, it seems to be doing well. It's gave me here, this is a non-static method and what's the difference between the two. So it's a great way for explaining the concept you are looking to learn using the code you have in your code base. So that's the first use case I wanted to show you today. The second one is explaining the code. And that's something I feel it's very useful and beneficial. Again, we always join projects midway and someone already generated the code for us, or like there is existing code, and some juniors join the code, like the team late, and they have tons of code that they have to go through and they need to understand. So they can use Agentforce Vibes to explain the code for them or to ask specific questions. Again, I thought that would be a good use case to have it as a workflow. The workflow for my use case here is asking which classes do you want me to document? Like if I want to generate a documentation. So I can specify a folder, I can specify multiple classes, and then it will ask me like, do you want to generate a single file? Like if I specify more than one class, do you want me to get the output or the documentation of multiple classes in one markdown file, or you want to generate multiple files? And then it can, I said like the instruction, what I want the format of my documentation to be at the end. And again, that's a preference. Team to team, they can have their own structure of the documentation or how they want to generate. Let's try this together. And I don't have to use workflows to do this for sure. It's just me. Sometimes when I like the prompt very much, I find it easier to reuse it instead of me remembering or keeping it copy somewhere or even in code snippet and I have to remember the name for it. So I feel maybe that's a good option. But again, you can ignore the workflow part and achieve the same by writing the prompt you want. So I will say here, document Apex class, and I will enter. I am expecting it the first time. It will ask me which classes I want to document. So it gave me sample of the classes that I have, but let's say I want math utility. We have a math utility, and I would say comma, maybe demo. Do we have demo seed, for example? I would choose those two classes. I want to document them. It should now ask me if I want to generate a single markdown file for both of them. Let's assume you're working on a functionality and you have multiple classes related to the same functionality. You can choose to generate a single markdown file for them, or I can choose I want different markdown files for each of the classes. So I'm expecting it to generate two. And part of my instruction, I said, like, if I choose separate markdown, name it with the class name. So I have here math utility underscore documentation. And it should, after it's done, it should generate as well the one for the demo seed as well. And part of the structure it's generating, it's based on my instruction and what I wanted to include. And here, this is the chain that shows me what it has to do. So it start with reading the class file, generate per method documentation, markdown file in the documentation folder, save separate file per class, verify saved files. So those are like the steps that Agentforce Vibes see it should go through to say the task is done. So now it's doing the second file, which is demo seed underscore documentation.md. And that's because I chose that I want separate MD files per class. If I chose them in a single file, I would have a section for the math utility and another section for the demo seed. So now it's done. Let me show you. I said I want it in a documentation folder. So I have the documentation folder here created. If I open the demo seed, I said I want an overview section first. So we have it. Then I said I want for each method, double click. For each method, I want to see what are the parameters, how to use it, and to give me like a specific result for it. So we saw together the demo seed documentation. Let me open the math utility for you as well. I will open in the preview. So I created, as we instructed, another empty file for the math utility. Again, we'll have the overview and then what are the methods. It explains each method, what are the parameter and how to use it, an example for the usage, and it will give me the same for each single method. And that's coming because we instructed the workflow, or if you do it directly from a prompt, the prompt we are using or the instruction we are giving that we want an overview, then a specific explanation for each method and every single method using like the code base to explain it and say what are the parameters, then give me an example how to use it. So I find this is a great way for you to understand if you are looking to understand a specific class, how it's working and what are the ins and outs and how to use it. So you can use this for documentation / explaining the code for you. So it's a great way to do that. Let's try now another example where we will document only a single class, and it's a more complex class that we did before together to invoke and call prompt templates from Apex. So let's see that together now. And let me here say, let's try it even with one and see. But yesterday I tried it with a couple of classes together in a single MD file. It was great. So maybe again, I need to change something in my documentation. And let's see, I can choose another one here, prompt template service. This one we created when we were working on how to call a prompt template within Apex. So again, here now, because I chose a single file, it didn't ask me to create, do you want a single empty file or multiple? And it's going through the methods I have, and it's adding explanation and how to use it, and any tips or how to deal with the class as well will be there for me. And let's see now. I will open it and see this one. So overview again, public method. I have this single method defined and give me the signature and then explanation for the parameters and the return and the best practices. And again, internal logic step by step work through, like it just gave me an explanation for the big method signature. Then it's explaining step by step what's happening within the class, and the method line by line, and then how to call it as a basic example usage. And again, notes and tips, how to send the input dependencies, what it's relying on. So again, the output or the format of the documentation, we can control it with our prompt. And the prompt, again, you don't have to do it in a workflow. You can type it again the way you want every time. I thought about just trying the workflow as a workaround of repeating it over and over again. So that's another example. And another thing I did yesterday, I was trying, I didn't know if I have it. Like, I know I have it, but for example, do we have any logic in place to call prompt templates from Apex? And that's the class we just did the documentation for. So I'm asking, do we have something for that or not? So it will go through the classes or the folder of classes I have, and detected that there is prompt template service. I think we have, again, another one in English because I did one offline, one in the English session, one in the Arabic session. So it detected that I have 3 classes and gave me like, you have 3 classes, or like it's explaining like we have one for English, one for Arabic, and giving me the explanation where it found. So it gave me the answer to my question. So again, it doesn't have to be just documentation. You may have requests to explain code documented. You can ask questions as we did. Do I have this logic? Because I don't know the logic, how it can be written or how to do it, or if I have it or not. So maybe I don't know how to start my search. And that's where like I can ask it, and then it can detect like if I have it or not. And I can take it further as a conversation to ask for documentation or explanation, or give me a code how to use it as a sample. Like you can have a conversation based on your code base and asking back and forth questions if you want. But in general, like we tested together how we can ask like generic Apex coding questions and ask for the explanation to refer to examples from the code. We try to explain the code. Let's see refactor or simplify logic. So I created something on purpose. I created 3 triggers. One is for account, one for contact, and one for opportunity. If you look into it, you'll find that for opportunity, I have an opportunity trigger handler, which is the best practice, that we should have our logic in, not in the trigger, but in a trigger handler. Then I have another one for contact. On purpose, I did that I don't have a trigger handler. And the same for account trigger. I put the logic directly in the account. And I want to try with you that we try to ask Agentforce Vibes to evaluate if my triggers are good and following the best practices or not, and if all of them has trigger handlers, or we need to remove the logic from the trigger and put it in a trigger handler. So I wanted to reevaluate all my triggers. So we want to, with that task, we want to see if it will detect that the opportunity trigger is a good one, it doesn't need to edit, And then we want to see if it will detect the account and contact trigger that they need fixes and how it will fix it for us. While doing that, the recent Agentforce Vibes did they introduced a new like command that we can run, which is deep planning. We discussed before that we have plan and act. The deep plan is one step deeper than the plan. What it does is it has 4 steps in general that it will go through. The plan usually take our requirement, any reference for the context, and give us steps. And the deep planning, as far as in my understanding, what it does is first it does further investigation. It will check in general the code structure of my project, will check it to understand and collect more information. Then, if my request is not very clear, it will ask me questions without me specifying. If you are missing questions or you need clarification, please ask me. If that's the case, it will ask. The third, it will implement and create for us a markdown file with the plan of what is happening and what it will do. And then what it will do, it will create a new task or a new chat with the plan attached to it, the markdown file it will generate, and it will go through it step by step. So kind of I want to try both at the same time. So I'll get my prompt and we'll try the deep learning together. Again, it's new, so I didn't get the chance to play with it too much, but that's my understanding on how it would work. So deep learning here, and I would say my instruction or my prompt, I would say like refactor triggers, and I give the context, which is the folder of triggers. I didn't specify that I want to refactor account or contact. I said I want to follow the best practices by moving their logic into separate handler classes if needed. If needed, I want you to remove the logic from the trigger and put it in handler. Name the handler class as the trigger name and append to it handler at the end. Example, account trigger handler for account trigger. And then I said, this is the naming for the method I would like to have on before, insert, on after, update, etc. And I want to update the trigger if we do the change to use those method and use consistent parameters. I would like to name them as LST, new and old, and map new and old. And I want to use or to get the right context variables for each method. And after refactoring, create test classes for the triggers and make sure they include bulk testing for the output. So I will ask to revisit the triggers, refactor, then I create test classes. So let's go. We are doing this with the deep planning, so we'll experience this together. So first is the silent investigation that I was telling you about. That's the first where it will do further investigation in the project to collect information and see what do we have in the project structure and the file and collect details that it will help Agentforce Vibe to suggest better like solutions. Let's see if it will work with this test scenario. If we see any issues, I tested before and it was working. So now it's checking to read the account trigger. And I have contact trigger, so it's checking this trigger as well because I said I want to check all the triggers, and it should check as well the opportunity trigger for me. And here the steps like silent investigation, identify the trigger and handler. So going through the steps. So it's in step 1 out of 7. And here opportunity trigger. Again, should I go with deep planning every time I have a task to work on? The answer is no, because you will notice that it will take so much to do. Confirm scope. Should I create handler classes? So that's the second stage where it's asking question. Confirm, should I create handler classes and test only for account trigger and contact trigger since opportunity already uses opportunity trigger handler, or should I review adjust the existing opportunity trigger handler and write the test classes for it? So let's say I want just to focus on account and contact. So I would say account and contact only, or maybe I can say, okay, I want you to do the opportunity. Now the third step, which is creating the markdown file for the plan and what will happen. The plan is very detailed and it will give us specifically what it will do and what will be happening. And you notice as well, like this second stage where it asks question, it's not generic question. It was very specific to my project because my project, I had opportunity trigger a trigger and it didn't need handler. So it asks a question based on my project. It's not generic question. So here it's creating the markdown file with every step it will do and the best practices and what will happen. Again, um, as you see, like it's time consuming, it's taking its own time, especially like if you have a big project that will be too much to go through. And definitely it's consuming a lot of requests as well along the way. So do we do it every time we need? And this is the steps, like what got done or what was executed so far. So it has 8 steps, it did 2. So here it's giving me a summary of what happened. So we do it for major changes, like if you have complex changes, something, it will be touching multiple files, something that you want Agentforce to investigate further and ask you questions. So you have to be mindful when to use it or not to use it. Otherwise, we could like do this refactor with just a quicker step without that. So here it's asking me to go to the third step, which is start a new task with context. And the new task will be relying on the implementation plan markdown. And again, in real life project and implementation, I would say we have to go through the plan, read it, modify if we need anything. So here it's telling me I would create the file, I would create the meta file for it with the version. So it's giving so many details. Now, because we are in the session and we have time limited, I cannot go and read it line by line and fix anything that I want to fix. So I will start with the task. And the task now should update for me the trigger for contact and account and fix them and create the task class for me. So here it's started a new task, and this is the fourth step of the deep planning, where it will start the implementation based on the requirement MD5. Here it started first by creating the account trigger handler because it didn't have it. And either it will do the meta file, so the meta file, and we have a rule in place to enforce the API version to be 65. And it should go next to the contact trigger handler and the contact trigger handler meta file. So here, contact trigger handler. And again, that's a good example for you because sometimes you are working on a project and you want to refactor the pattern you are working with. We want to refactor how we are handling exception. For example, you are doing the bug logs and you introduce Nebula. You want to go through all the try and catches and the exception to handle using Nebula. So if you do it file by file yourself, it may be time consuming, but you may choose to go with the plan. So it tells you where it will do and the changes and how it will do it. And you read the plan, you're happy with it, you start implementation. So here, in the past, we saw like we are writing prompt templates that are very specific, detailed, what to do, what's the method name, what's the class name. Here, we give that we want to check the trigger, account trigger, and like the triggers in general. It's when it checked like the files, it detected that we have issues in 2 of them, and it fixed that. So here it's working on updating the contact trigger now. One thing, like I like to use switch case instead of if and else statements. We could have added this as best practice in a rule or even in the instruction in the prompt that please for the trigger use so and so. Here, because we have limitation for org 50 requests and we have been trying the deep planning, which consume a lot of API requests, it tells me now that we switch to the core model. And it's a good thing to see it live, that it will still perform and it should work and generate the output we are expecting. So creating the task class for the account, and it will detected, I believe, some issues in the syntax. So it's going through and updating them. And it should create the XML meta file for it, and the task class for the contact trigger as well. In the meta file, it picked the 65. So even if we went to the core model, the rules are applied, and it generated using the API version for the meta file as 65. So I don't see it like a very bad thing that we switch to the core model. It will still work. Again, based on your code preference in the company, you may have to add rules as necessary to like comply with your best practices and naming convention you want, structures you want. If you don't want it to use system.assert and you wanted to use the assert class, we can add this in the rules and enforce it. So, but in general, we are demonstrating that you can do a refactor on a bigger scale than just refactor this method. In the past, like I remember when we did the Agentforce for developer, we had the math utility, we had one method, we didn't like it, and we said like, please refactor this method, and we have the file open. So that's more advanced. It's doing more checking the files. Here it started like to want to run the Apex class for me to finish like to make sure that the syntax is right and it's running. I will stop it here so we can go to the next use case. But in general, that's a use case. I believe it's very useful. You can refactor. You can refactor a single file. You can refactor multiple files using a specific folder. Next, let's see. Sometimes it's not the best practice, but I wouldn't say I never saw it, which is you can inherit a class or code where you have 0 comments or very minimum comments within the code. So sometimes you want to add inline comments to your existing classes. So let me open here and close all of that. And I will open here a math utility. I believe it was math utility class. I put this class in on purpose without any methods. And also this is the method I was telling you, we used it in the past to demo refactoring for Agentforce for developers. But with Agentforce Vibes, we can do more. So we did the triggers. So here, what I would do is I would say, I want to add inline comments to this class, and I can add my context to math utility and enhance a code quality if needed. So I didn't specify that I want to enhance this method. I didn't specify which method specifically I want to edit. I said in general, review the code quality and change it and make it better and add the comments. So let's do that. And again, you can work with plan first and then act, or you can choose to go with the act directly if you are confident of what you want to do. So here, let me implement these improvements. So here it kind of gave me a plan. I will add comments. I will simplify is positive. I will improve variable naming for clarity. I will make sure method more concise. I will have the formatting for it. So if you approve all of that, I say go ahead. So sometimes it does that, even if I didn't ask for planning. Sometimes I notice that it gives me a plan and it waits for me to give the go ahead. And sometimes when I'm on the act, it just acts directly. Here it did update the math utility class. It's done. And if anyone missed the previous session last time, you can go here and again say compare. So it can tell me what happened but exactly. So what are the changes? What was added? Here is positive method it deleted all that code and simplified the logic to be that way. So again, we can use it to have inline comments within your code. Again, it adds comments to the class, to the method. If we wanted within the method too, when I tested the same prompt yesterday, it added some comments within the method too. If you notice that this prompt wasn't enough, maybe I would say, can you add inline comments within the method as well? And it will add it for me. So sometimes we can be more specific, or if we notice that it didn't do what we want from the first go, we can add instruction or like update, like I can ask it to add them. But most probably it didn't add it because methods are very simple here. It's 1 or 2 line, so there is no need to add like comments before the method and within the method too. It was enough just the comments before the methods. So again, inline comments, we saw it explaining the code and documentation. They are different. We saw it in different ways. And the comments will help you understand. If you want further documentation, you can use the documentation prompt. I want documentation, tell me the usage of each or in and out of each method and how to use it, and give it to me and a sample of how to use it. Or you can choose without creating markdown file to ask specific question. Give me sample on how to call and subtract numbers if I want to run it in developer console, and it should give you a simple call way to do it. Generate Visualforce pages, PDF ready. That's something I tried with Agentforce for developers, and I failed. Like it didn't work at all. Yesterday, I tested a couple of times with Agentforce Vibes, and it works. So let's try together. I will give it here a simple prompt, but I will say here, create Visualforce page to render as PDF to display account name, fax, phone, website, and type using standard controller as I will pass the ID in the query parameter. And I said there is no need for Apex controller, and the account object that you will be working with is the standard, which I added the context for the object in case, for example, you are working with custom fields or custom object. It will be helpful to add this to Agentforce Vibe to know the field API names. So let's try it together, and we'll hope that it works, and then we can see it live together as well. We can open the class. I can see already pages. Here it says what? First, I will check if there is already. It's checking if we have any existing Visualforce page. It didn't find that we have the directory for pages in the project because we didn't have any Visualforce pages. And it created a Visualforce page called account info PDF. And again, we didn't specify. Do you remember when we said yesterday, not yesterday, the last session, it's always good to have the action. So we said create context details. We give that we want using the account object. Best practices, that's part of the rules. And additional context, I didn't give additional context. I said like, yeah, use the standard controller. I don't need Apex. I could add here what the Visualforce page name I want, but I didn't. So it created for me account PDF. I cancel here because that's something I faced yesterday. It created a second Visualforce page that we don't need, but it created the Visualforce page that we needed. Like it created here another one test Visualforce page. I don't need a test Visualforce page to test my Visualforce page. And again, that's something we can add a rule for it, and we can test it if you want. But let me deploy here. I will deploy this to source, and let me get the name, and we can test it in the org. So deployed, no issues. I will open it and let's test it together. So it will open the org for me, and I will add the Visualforce page name here, Apex. and I say, let's get this account ID, and I pass it here, ID. So I created a Visualforce page, rendered as PDF. It has the name, fax, phone, website, and type as I requested. I didn't specify much, like I didn't specify I want it in a table. I didn't specify I want it in a bullet point. I didn't give any more details. So it created what we asked. If we want to be more specific, I want this as the header. I want a specific format, make the color of the text something specific or bold, italic, we can do that. I just wanted to test the possibility that it's working, because even if that's what it did, like some people who are not used to writing Visualforce page, they would be super happy to have at least this starting point that they can work with, and they can enhance it if they want. Or again, we can use Agentforce Vibe and request to add extra field, to add styling. We can do that. And having a Visualforce page as a test Visualforce page, that's something not correct. But we can add in the rules, a specific rule that I don't create a testing Visualforce page when I request it to create one. We can test it towards the end of the session. If someone can remind me if I forget, we can add the rule file and try it together. So that's the next use case. The next one is converting JSON to Apex wrapper and vice versa. And that's something I believe a lot of people will find it useful, especially if they are working with integration. Because when we work with integration, you will have to write, you will have like as a sample for the API that you are wanted to call or to consume, it will have a return type JSON in a format. So let me show you JSON formatter. That's just to give you an example. I created a sample JSON. It's not coming from any API, but I created that we have first name, last name, gender, age, address as an object. I would expect the class to generate it as an object with those properties. Phone number is a list, and it's a list of object, and it has type and number value. So let's try to give this JSON to our Agentforce Vibes and see what it will do for us. So I can say here, create a JSON JSON wrapper class in which I can deserialize this JSON, and I give it the sample of the JSON that I want to deserialize. So let's see together. It detected like the types. Did it do it correct? Let's see. So it created the person address. Let's see here, person phone number and person address. So it did two classes, one person address, one person number, and the person. So the person here, first name, that match what we have, last name and gender. So I don't need a test class for it. Let's stop it. And here the person, I have first name, last name, gender, age. Those are the ones. Then for the address, I created the person class address. And for the phone number, created a list of person phone numbers. I chose here to create those instead of subclasses to create them as separate class. Again, I can say restore. I don't like the output that we got. Let me restore everything. So I remove those, and we can enhance our prompt. What's this? I will copy this, and I will create new task, and I will say here if we need subclasses, keep them in same wrapper class. A subclass, no test classes needed. And let's see. So I specified that if there is a subclass, then create new file for them, include them. So let's see if that will make a difference. So I see here address, it added in the same class as a subclass. It then created as a separate file. It's still creating the task class, but it's okay. In real life project, you will be happy that something got generated for you. But all I need is to show you that we have first name, last name, gender, age, and then the address as a class. The phone number is as a list of class, and it has the properties that we have in the JSON as we have here. So street address, city, and state. Street address, city, and state. And same for phone number and the type. So sometimes you need to do that. And sometimes you need to do the opposite. Sometimes we have the wrapper class and I need to generate a sample JSON text because when we are working with APIs, we have to mock the data and we don't want to generate it. So let's see, let me save this. And I close the test, we don't need it. Here, this one is failing. Let's see. Okay, it didn't generate the meta file for it. So that's something we can fix by either creating the meta file for it ourselves by simply like taking a copy from somewhere else, or I can try to instruct it, create the meta file for the Apex class person JSON wrapper. So I can ask it to create the meta file, and that's part of it maybe because I interrupted the task because it was creating the task class and I stopped the task. I didn't let it finish. So most probably if I have waited till the end, it would have created the meta file for me. I just interrupted the task in the middle because I didn't need the Apex class and I stopped it. But here I created, so I can deploy this. And I can try to generate the sample. So I need sample JSON for this wrapper class in empty file. And I can put the class here. Person. So I am asking to give me a sample JSON to this wrapper class. And again, my wording maybe is not accurate, or by experience we will get better. I may find that it's not the best way, or I could say something better to say it. So let's see, below is a sample and it created the sample for me. So give me first name, last name, gender, age, address, and the list of phone numbers. It's an array and each of them is an object with the type. So again, it's another way to use Agentforce Vibes, and usually it's very useful when you're working with integration, where you want to see you can have the JSON and you can generate the wrapper class for it, or you have a wrapper class and you want to get a simple JSON where you can use it in your test classes. So I find this useful and I enjoyed that it's working. Another thing that I want to show you, but I didn't get the chance to find a good API for it, but something for you to test. If you have an API that is available for you and it has a documentation, what is the API parameters and how to call it and what's the expected JSON. Sometimes people provide you with those samples as documentation. What you can do is that you can even do a add and paste the URL. So you can paste the URL of the API documentation here and ask JSON to generate for you the REST API callout methods and the wrapper class and a sample JSON for your test class, or ask it to mock the test class for you for the test scenarios too. The country API that we were working with in the project previously, I couldn't make it run with it because myself, even I had so much challenges getting the JSON and making it work because the output was not very Salesforce friendly, or it had some extra characters here and there that I had to clean and remove when we were working with this API. So I couldn't demo it for you because if I struggle myself, I most probably we won't get a very good output when we try it. But it's something for you to test. And if you have a public API that we can test and you want to demo it in the community session that we'll do on the 4th of December, please message me. I would love for you to demo it live in the session too, because it's a very, very great scenario to run if you have a public API that you can work with. But again, we got here the generate Visualforce page. We did the convert Apex, JSON to Apex wrappers and from Apex wrapper to JSON. The next is the question that I got towards the end of the last session, and was a question about if we can use Agentforce Vibes to load data. And I don't think that Agentforce Vibes will be your best option to do it, but I wanted to test and see if it's possible or not. So what I did here, I created, let's keep this, okay. I created here a sample CSV file. I did multiple accounts. I want to see if I can load this to accounts. So I created multiple accounts, 10 accounts. I have a custom field called active. Yes or no, it takes yes or no. So I added the values and the website again. Let's go to the org to make sure that we don't have those data. So I will do a query here. We don't have the checking accounts in place. So let me go and show you in Vibe. So I would say here, I want to load, insert this file, content, the records, and I said which file. This file is using the native SF data import command into the standard existing object, and I gave the context for the account. And I said I will use my org, Sally Personal Agentforce, the alias of my org. So let's see it in action and see if it loaded. Why I'm saying it's not the best option, because it consumes a lot of API requests and back and forth sometimes for it to do it. And I asked some people to test it as well using other tools, and they confirmed that that's the same similar feedback that they had with Cursor or Claude. And here it's checking, it checked the CSV file, it checked the account, it's checking the fields of the account because I have 3 columns here to put. So it's checking that I have the active field before trying to import. So it's doing a lot of checks, checking here the website, the name, the 3 fields I have. Now I will use the SF data import. Let's run the command. And again, I could have this in a safe command so it doesn't stop and ask me, but I feel it's a risky command to have it. Like if by mistake Agentforce Vibes understood something that I want to import data, I don't want it to run it on its own. So I would say run command. So it tries to run it, and it detects sometimes like that there is some issues or some syntax. So it run here data import help. So it runs the help command to get the details how to run this command. And that's something I felt it can be added to the save commands. I will show you that I have added this command there to run the help. Now it's trying to do the same, but using, instead of the import, it's using the import tree. And I converted the CSV data into JSON. Again, that's why I think it's better to do it yourself using a data loader or another import wizard, but not Agentforce Vibe, because it will do it toward at the end. We'll get it done. 99%. I don't want to say 100%, but it's too many API requests. We can do it with another. Like I would love to keep Agentforce Vibes for the tools or the actions that really will benefit of doing it. Like you saw, like the documentation. If you're working in any project, it will be a great thing towards the end of the project to give the artifacts and create like documentation for the classes or the functions you worked on. And any developer will join me on this. We don't like writing documentation so much. We do it, and if we do it, we'll do it very well, but it's not like our favorite thing to do. And it's very important. And we feel we did enough with the inline comments in the code. So if you have this with the help of Agentforce Vibes, that's a great thing to do. And again, this behavior, I checked with some friends who tested the same using Cursor or Claude, and it took so much from them to do it as well. Here it got succeeded. It tells me that it got succeeded. It has loaded the records. If I go here and run export, I will find that we have added the 10 records with their yes or no and the websites as well. So it's doable. Is it the best way to utilize and use Agentforce Vibe? I would say no, but it's possible. The other scenarios that we didn't cover totally, in a way or another, we did Apex classes when we did the task manager. We did trigger test classes. We did it as well along the way when it generated test classes. We didn't test it to create objects, fields, tabs, or permission sets and workflows. So those three, and definitely we didn't do it before. The LWC command, we tried it. Retrieve and query results. This is something we didn't do before. Deployment, we can do it, and we can ask it to run test classes. We did explicitly the test classes when we did the workflow last time when it generated class. I want it to be deployed and I want to run test class. So we did those in a way or another last time. So I would say the 4 pieces we never did or tested together is those 3 and this query results. So we'll see how the sessions goes, and we'll see if I would love to hear your feedback if you want me to try them in another time or not. But I think we cover pretty like decent amount of tasks and different way to use Agentforce Vibes. I would encourage anyone who's interested to be a speaker in the Agentforce Vibes for a community session on 4th of December to message me and let me know the use case that they want to run or test. And we'll be in touch, and I will tell you like if we have spots left or not for you to join. If not, and we have so many great use cases and many use cases the community want to share with us, we may create another session for the community to just present their use cases. So please don't be shy. Send me over your use cases. I would love to learn from you. We are all testing and trying and experimenting new ways to use Agentforce Vibes, and I would love to learn from you. So waiting to hear from you. Next week, the session will have a guest speaker. Amazing Taha will join us. He will explain to us how to start with Cursor, how to install it, how to set it up to connect to our project. And we'll try to gather the same task manager requirement file and how to set it up or how to use it within Cursor to generate the same task manager we created in our session. So stay tuned. I believe it will be great to see another API, not API, another AI tool and another great tool that developers use. Again, it's your decision which tool you like, you prefer, and you enjoy more to use, free versus not, capabilities, the look and feel. So I would love to show you all, and I will leave it to you to decide. I hope the session today was useful. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next week. And I would love to hear back from you, your feedback on today's session. And I would love to hear many volunteers that they want to join the session. I would be super happy to generate more than one session for a community to share their use cases. That would be great. I will wait for you to send me your questions, suggestions. And I really enjoyed being with you today. Thank you so much.